Have you ever downloaded a bunch of images and their file names don't make any sense? And when you go back to look for a specific image, it takes you forever to find what you're looking for? What if I told you you could use Ollama to help rename images? In this video, I show you how to do it with a quick Python script I made into a CLI app. Let's get to it. Today we're going to explore a Python CLI app that uses Ollama to rename your images based on their content. Whether you're a developer or a content creator or just someone who's looking to organize their files, this tutorial is for you. Pretty much the only requirement that you're going to need is Ollama, and I'm going to go ahead and assume that you have Python installed. And so what you're going to do is go to ollama.com, download it here. Then it should pop up here in a little taskbar if you're on a Mac, which I am. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to clone the repo where we want it in our computer. We're going to go cd personal/tutorials. There we go. And now we're going to do git clone and then Ollama rename images. This is where it lives at. Okay. We're going to cd into it. Once you cd'd into that directory, you can set up your Python environment however you like to. I like to use poetry, so that's what I'm going to show in this example. If you don't have poetry, you can do pip x install poetry, like so. Run it. That will install poetry. That's like a package manager. You can also use that to send it to PyPy, which anyone could then take your code from. But for now, if you don't have pipx, you could do brew install pipx. This is on a Mac. If you don't have a Mac or if you're on a Linux or Windows machine, here's the poetry. And then here's the pipx installation. So if you're on Linux or a different distribution, here's your Windows. Yeah, once you have poetry, we're just going to do a simple command poetry install. That creates an environment, downloads the packages. Let's clear that out. Go back to the top. Now we need to start our shell. We could do poetry shell. And we can verify that we have the rename CLI application by doing which rename. Should show you something similar to that. -- help pops open. So your directory path is a must. Okay, so now we're ready to run the application. We're going to have a couple images on our computer. Maybe one is from Dolly, another is an image that I picked up somewhere, but both don't necessarily depict what is in the image. And it'd be much nicer to actually take those images and rename them. I'm going to show that here. Now you saw how it works. Let's jump into the code. We're going to open it up. We're going to go cursor. Should open over onto my side here. Let me pull it in. First, we're going to start out by importing some libraries. You have Ollama, Typer, Pillow, Pydantic, and TQDM for progress bars. Down at the bottom, we have our main entry point, and we have a couple parameters that we're going to be needing. directory path, so the path of the folder that you want to loop through, the delimiter, and the verbosity. These are optional, so you don't have to, but if you wanted to change the delimiter, the default is going to be the underscore. And if you want more verbosity in the logging output, you can just add this parameter. If your delimiter is anything other than these three things, then it will default to the underscore. But if you give a delimiter that is not one of those three items, it will error out on you. And we're going to pass it the directory path, setting the path variable here. We're going to glob some WEBP files, and we're going to set that as a list. And then we're going to start by converting the files to a JPEG. We're going to be passing it a directory path, and this is where the outer loop is going to start. So if we go to this function, we see that we have an empty list, and then we're going to loop through it. And then we're going to pass the file for each file in the directory. We're going to pass it to this convert WEBP. If we go to that function right here, passing in the string, which is the file path, then we're going to be opening that image, splitting the first part and the last part, splitting the first part, and we're going to be adding the JPEG to it. And then we're going to be converting that file path to a JPEG image. You might be wondering what the RGB is for. So WEBPs can contain different modes, including like those with alpha transparencies like RGBA or palette. JPEG files do not support transparencies or palettes. They typically are stored in RGB mode, and they're at a little bit lower quality, but smaller in size. So that's that function. Once you have converted the file to a JPEG, you are then going to be passing it back in to this converted list. You're going to be appending it, and you're going to be wrapping it with a path, and then you're going to be returning that list. We're going to go back to the process dir. Once you have those files, those list of paths, you're going to pass it the dir path, the converted image files, the WEP files that we got from globbing, and the delimiter that we have chosen. If we go to this function, this is where we're going to be wrapping the progress bar. So for each file, and it will show you a duration of time. I'm on a Mac, so I was getting a weird issue where I was hitting this DS store. So we're just skipping that if that's the file name. And next we're gonna be generating the keywords, which is where Ollama comes into play. So then we're gonna go to this function over here that's called generate keywords. It's gonna take in a path, and we're gonna open up that path and create a base 64 string from it. That's what Ollama model Lava Phi 3 is gonna be able to take in. So we're going to give it a couple things. We're going to give it the base 64 string in a list, and then we're going to also pass it the prompt, describe the image as 4 keywords, output into some structured format, use the following schema, and then this is what our schema looks like. If we go up to image classification here, this is what we expect to be pulled out. And we have a keywords to string delimiter, sorry. And what we're doing here is essentially we're going to take the first keywords or anything before cleaned words are going to be delimited. We're going to be replacing it either with a space or whatever is passed in. And then we're going to be returning that string. We're going to go back to process image, and once we've got the response from the generate keywords, we need to get the dictionary form from the JSON output. So we're going to do JSON.loads, pass it in the resp, and we're going to spread that back into the image classification. And from there, we're going to call the method keywords to string with delimiter, which we explained previously. This is going to be a string representation, and we're going to be combining that back with a path. So this should be a path variable. We're going to rename the path to that specific directory that was passed in, that was made up from the keywords to string, that string. So if you remember, we have the WEP files, which is a list of paths, which is what we made down here, right? Which was the glob. That's what we were passing into that function here. We're looping through that in a comprehension, and we're saying if this condition, which is the stem of the files that we're looping through, is the same as the stem, or the stem is the first part of the component, is the same as the file.stem, then we are going to return it here, and we're going to unlink it, which is removing it from the directory, and then we're going to remove it from the list. And if we fail, then we're going to get some output that will explain. And that's pretty much it for this function. If you want to try this out for yourself, you can find the full code in my GitHub. The link is in the description below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more tech tutorials. Peace.